Hey friends, imagine this for a second. You're a single dad, scraping by on a modest salary, pouring every ounce of your heart into raising your little boy after life dealt you the cruelest hand. Late one rainy night, you spot your intimidating CEO boss, the woman who barely knows your name, drunk, stumbling, and in real danger with no one else around. Walk away and protect your job. Or step in, do the right thing in total silence, and risk everything? Stick with me until the very last word of this story, because what happens the very next morning will hit you right in the chest and remind you why kindness, even when no one is watching, can rewrite your entire world. This is the tale of Marcus Hale, and by the end, you'll feel something shift inside you, promise. Marcus Hale had always believed that life was a series of quiet battles fought in the dark. At 36, he was the kind of man people overlooked in the bustling corridors of Lawson Enterprises, the sleek Chicago finance firm that towered over the downtown skyline like a glass and steel monument to success. He wasn't flashy. He didn't chase promotions or linger at after-work happy hours. Marcus was simply the reliable senior accountant who arrived at 7 a.m. sharp, left at 6 p.m. on the dot, and spent every spare minute being the only parent his 8-year-old son Caleb had left. 3 years earlier, a drunk driver had stolen his wife Sarah in a single heartbeat on a slick highway, leaving Marcus with a mountain of hospital bills, a tiny 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where dreams went to fade, and a boy whose bright eyes now carried shadows too heavy for his age. Every morning began the same way. Marcus would wake before dawn, brew cheap coffee, and pack Caleb's lunch while whispering promises into the quiet kitchen. "We're gonna make it, buddy. Daddy's got you." Caleb would nod sleepily, clutching the worn stuffed dinosaur Sarah had bought him on their last family trip. But Marcus saw the worry in his son's eyes, the way Caleb stopped asking for new sneakers or a bike like the other kids at school, how he'd started helping with chores without being told, as if he sensed the weight pressing on his father's shoulders. Money was tighter than ever. The rent had just gone up, Caleb needed new glasses after his last checkup, and Marcus's ancient car was coughing its way toward retirement. At work, Victoria Lawson, the iron-willed CEO who had built the company from a garage startup into a multi-million-dollar empire, treated everyone like interchangeable cogs. She was brilliant, beautiful in a sharp, untouchable way, and utterly terrifying. Her emails were clipped, her meetings ruthless, and Marcus had once watched her fire a manager for missing a single deadline. He kept his head down, did his numbers flawlessly, and dreamed of nothing more than stability for Caleb. That particular Thursday night, the rain came down in sheets, turning the parking garage into a roaring waterfall. Marcus had stayed late to finish a quarterly report no one else wanted to touch, the kind of extra work that never earned thanks but kept his modest paycheck alive. His umbrella was broken, so he dashed through the downpour toward his beat-up sedan, shoes squelching, heart already racing toward home where Caleb waited with the neighbor lady who babysat for pennies. That's when he saw her, Victoria Lawson herself, slumped against the hood of her sleek black Mercedes, designer coat soaked, heels kicked off, and a half-empty bottle of expensive scotch rolling on the wet concrete beside her. She was muttering something incoherent, mascara streaking her cheeks, her usually perfect posture crumpled like a discarded contract. The garage was empty. The security guard had already clocked out early because of the storm. No cameras in this far corner. No witnesses. Just the thunder and the woman who could end his career with a single email. Marcus froze, rain hammering his shoulders. Every survival instinct screamed at him to keep walking. This was his boss, the same woman who had once publicly scolded an entire department for wasting her time. Helping her could backfire spectacularly. What if she woke up tomorrow, mortified, and decided the easiest way to erase the memory was to erase him? What if she accused him of something worse? Caleb's face flashed in his mind, those trusting eyes that believed Daddy could fix anything. But then another memory surfaced, Sarah's voice on their wedding day, soft and fierce. "The world is full of people who look away, Marcus. Don't ever be one of them." His feet moved before his brain caught up. He approached slowly, voice gentle over the roar of rain. Ms. Lawson? It's Marcus, from accounting. You're not safe here. Let me help you get home. She blinked up at him through the downpour, eyes glassy and confused, but something in his steady tone must have cut through the haze because she didn't pull away. Marcus didn't touch her more than necessary, sliding an arm under her shoulders only when she nearly collapsed, guiding her into the passenger seat of her own car with the care of a father tucking in a child. He drove through the flooded streets at 20 miles an hour, windshield wipers slapping furiously, while she drifted in and out of consciousness, murmuring fragments about board meetings and a divorce she'd never spoken of publicly. He didn't ask questions. He didn't take photos or record anything. At her sprawling lakefront mansion, he used the key fob she'd dropped to unlock the door, helped her inside to the couch, draped a blanket over her, and left a glass of water and 2 aspirin on the coffee table. Then he called a cab for himself, using the last $20 in his wallet, and slipped back into the night without leaving a note or expecting a single word of thanks. By the time he finally reached his apartment at 2 a.m., soaked to the bone and shivering, Caleb was already asleep in his arms after the neighbor handed him off. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching his son breathe, and whispered to the dark, "I did the right thing tonight, Sarah. For once, I didn't look away." The challenge had been enormous. Marcus lay awake until dawn, replaying every second, heart pounding with fear. What if she remembered and hated him for seeing her like that? What if the kindness cost him the job that kept Caleb fed? He had no safety net, no family, no savings, just the fragile thread of hope that integrity still mattered. Yet deep down, something unbreakable stirred, the same stubborn love that had carried him through Sarah's funeral, through nights of Caleb crying for a mother who would never return. Marcus chose to believe that doing good in secret was never truly secret, that the universe, or God, or whatever force watched over struggling fathers, kept score. He kissed Caleb's forehead, set the alarm for another long day, and finally slept, exhausted but strangely at peace. The office the next morning buzzed with its usual Monday morning energy, even though it was Friday, people clutching coffee cups, trading small talk, pretending the weekend was almost here. Marcus arrived early as always, eyes heavy from lack of sleep, tie neatly knotted, ready to disappear into spreadsheets. He half expected the worst, a cold email from HR or a summons to Victoria's office where she'd pretend last night never happened. Instead, at 9:15 sharp, the entire floor was called to the main conference room. Whispers rippled as Victoria Lawson strode in, perfectly composed in a crisp navy suit, not a trace of last night's vulnerability on her face. But her eyes, those sharp, calculating eyes, scanned the room until they locked onto Marcus standing near the back. What happened next stunned everyone into silence. Victoria stepped to the podium, cleared her throat, and spoke words no one in the building had ever heard from her. "Last night, in the middle of a storm that could have ruined me, one person chose decency when it would have been easier, far easier, to look the other way. Marcus Hale, step forward, please." The room erupted in confused murmurs. Marcus's legs felt like lead as he walked up, cheeks burning, heart hammering so hard he was sure everyone could hear it. Victoria looked straight at him, voice steady but softer than anyone had ever heard. "You found me at my lowest, Marcus. You could have taken advantage, snapped a photo for leverage, or simply driven away and let me become tomorrow's gossip. Instead, you drove me home safely, made sure I was warm, and asked for nothing. Not a raise, not a favor, not even a thank you. That kind of integrity is rare. It's the kind that built this company, and I almost forgot it existed." Tears pricked Marcus's eyes as she continued, voice cracking just once. "Because of you, I woke up remembering what matters. And today, I'm making it right." She announced a promotion on the spot, Senior Finance Director, with a salary that nearly doubled his pay, full benefits including therapy for Caleb, and a company car. More than that, she publicly credited him for months of unnoticed improvements in the quarterly reports he'd quietly perfected. The room exploded in applause. Colleagues who had barely nodded at him before now clapped his back, eyes wide with respect. Victoria pulled him aside afterward, voice low and genuine. I didn't pretend to forget, Marcus. I won't ever forget. Your son deserves a father who can breathe easier. And this company deserves leaders like you. The weeks that followed felt like a dream Marcus was afraid to wake from. The extra money meant Caleb got new glasses that very weekend, plus the bike he'd stopped asking for. They moved to a brighter apartment with a yard where Caleb could ride without fear. Marcus started therapy himself, unpacking the grief he'd buried under overtime shifts. Victoria didn't just promote him and vanish, she mentored him quietly, sharing her own story of loss and the drinking that had nearly consumed her after her divorce. Their conversations in the corner office became real, two wounded souls who had both learned that vulnerability could be strength. Caleb met her once at the company picnic and shyly called her the nice lady who made Daddy smile again. The single dad who had once felt invisible now walked taller, not because of the title on his door, but because one rainy night had proven that kindness returned in ways bigger than any spreadsheet could calculate. Challenges still came, old doubts crept in during tough board meetings, bills from the past occasionally surfaced, but Marcus faced them with a new fire. He taught Caleb the same lesson every bedtime: when no one is watching, that's when your character shows up, son. And the world always notices eventually. By the end of the year, Marcus had not only stabilized their life but started a small mentorship program at work for other single parents, inspired by the woman who refused to pretend she'd forgotten. And so, friends, here we are at the end of Marcus's story. If you're watching this right now, feeling the weight of your own silent battles, whether you're a struggling parent, an overlooked employee, or someone who's been hurt and tempted to turn cold, remember this: the smallest act of decency, done when it costs you everything and gains you nothing, can become the turning point that saves not just one life, but generations. Victoria didn't pretend to forget because real gratitude changes everything. Marcus's courage in the rain taught us that integrity isn't loud, it's the quiet force that moves mountains. So tonight, when you're faced with a choice to look away or step in, choose like Marcus did. Your Caleb is waiting. Your future is listening. And somewhere, the universe is keeping perfect score. Thank you for staying until the end. You've just carried this story in your heart, and that, my friends, is how hope keeps spreading.